and welcome to today's office hours. Today we're going to be talking about one of our core features of our product, directory. I have, as always, my Vanna White of office hours, Miss Veronica Boudreau. Hey, Veronica, are you excited to talk about directory?
You know what, Adam? I am. I always tend to think of a directory kind of like an org chart. So I think having like more accurate details will really help paint a clear picture of what the data output will be.
Yeah, and you're right. Like having a clean directory is vital to having accurate reporting. And that also means depending on what you're feeding into that directory will also impact it. So yeah, in today's session, that's what we're going to be going over. I'm going to showcase a few important highlights of directory and how it applies across the many applications within Infratel. Now, as always, there'll be a time for Q&A following the presentation where you can ask questions regarding today's topic or our application in general. First up, the chat section is disabled, so please utilize the Q&A section. My partner in crime, Veronica, will be monitoring that section and will bring up anything in the moment that needs to be addressed. Secondly, once the presentation is over, we'll have the ability to unmute yourself, but I'm just going to ask that you utilize the hand raise function so that we can all call on people in the order that it's received. And then lastly, I'm going to keep the recorded going during the Q&A, but I don't keep that in the shared video. So as always, thank you so much for being here, and let's go ahead and dive right in. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start out with how to get to the directory. And so how you access the directory in your product is once you logged in, and if you've defaulted still to going to the analytics dashboard, we're actually going to go ahead and click on the Go to Infratel Classic icon here in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. Once you go here and it logs you in, you're going to go to Administration and the directory. Okay. Now you might be asking yourself if you're watching this video, hey, I'm doing that and I don't see a directory. I don't see that option in my menu. What's going on? What's up with that? And that's a possibility. You do have to be granted access to the directory to be able to see it. Okay. And so let's talk about, before I kind of go into the directory itself, let's go and talk about access. And to do so, we're actually going to jump back to our classic engine, or sorry, into our new analytics engine. And we're going to go ahead and go down to this icon here in the bottom left-hand corner, which is users. Okay. Now I'm just going to go into a new user to talk about it. And what gives you the access rights to directory are three roles. The first one, when it comes to selecting a user type, is admin. Admin is our blanket, you have access to everything role. So of course, if you have this access, you're also going to have access to the directory. Okay, so that would give you blanket access to do anything in the directory that you want to accomplish. If you are set as a user, though, with like less rights, then the roles that are going to give you access to directory are full access, which is a small step down from the admin role, which I've talked about in a previous session. Admin role gives you the ability to add and remove login users. As a user with full access, that's the only thing you don't have access to, is to manage the people who can log into the system, the platform. So, but this one would give you access to the directory, which allows you to manipulate the directory and so forth. Okay. If you set up a custom role, that one also gives you access. And the custom role does allow you to define what kind of admin rights they have. So directory, are they a user or administrator? Okay. So a user allows the person to add, remove, delete, modify the directory and view it, versus an admin to the directory, which this little eye over the next to the directory icon will tell you a little bit more. Admins are able to create and update the automated directory import if you have one. So if you're a user, you would not be able to do that. You couldn't just set up an auto import or mess with it. You can only see the directory and manipulate it manually. Okay. So that talks about the access roles. And so to kind of recap on that, the access rights that give you the ability to see and or manipulate the directory is admin, full access, and custom role. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and jump back in. So we talked about access. Let's go to the directory itself. So upon loading the directory, you're going to notice here that you're going to see some navigation on the left-hand side. Now, I'm in a demo system. The demo system has just some kind of generic settings here. Your system will have if you have a directory, will have its own hierarchy here. But you're going to see in our system that I have 4 levels. And when I say levels, you're going to click on, so company is the top level always. And that's what we would, during implementation, we get the name of your company, and that can be changed. We have companies. So you might have multiple companies within your company. You then click on the company and you can see locations. And so I can click on Midwest, and then we get departments. So we can click on a department. Let me get a clean one. I like IT is a little busy. Let's do sales. Sales, we have people and their extensions. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like a 4-level hierarchy. So companies, locations, and they can all, so how this works, sorry, I'm kind of tripping on myself a little bit. Let me switch to a better slide. The directory hierarchy is typically a standard one is company, division, cost center, department, and person. Okay, that's just a default. These can all be renamed. So if that's you guys are not company and division, you can do something else. Like location could be one, store number could be one, department and person. There's so many different variations I've seen out there, and they don't have to have all 4. You could say company, department, and person, which a lot of you are that. It's just the company name, the departments they're in, and the people. That's that. You don't have a very complex hierarchy, and you can always add to it later if you're like, oh, you know what? Now we've got a new location. We're branching out to a new region, and we kind of want to separate that data out a little easier that way. Let's go ahead and do that. You can add to the hierarchy. Where I will say is troublesome is when you try to remove. Removing hierarchy, typically because people are building reports on that. You have to think about removing that hierarchy from the reporting if you're utilizing it. Okay. So I wanted to talk about the directory hierarchy because that does kind of come up, and navigating that hierarchy is here on the left. Okay. Now let's go ahead and go into a person. So we're in sales in the Midwest. Let's go to Paul Wilson as an entry. You'll see there's 2 icons. There's a delete person, and then there's a edit person. I'm going to go ahead and edit this person. And from in here, you can see that we have options to change this entry. So we've got last name, we've got first name. You're going to see here a tab for profile. You're going to see the ability to update extensions or add new extensions. So you select the data source, you add the extension that is applied to that data source or that phone system. You can expire old extensions. You can change how in the reporting how maybe extension 1415 actually shows as a full DID, and you can see when the last time this extension has been used. Okay, that's kind of the main features of the extension category. You can add in Cisco login IDs if you're utilizing like a UCM system that has that. Devices also can be utilized if you're utilizing a system that supports or the raw data that supports device information. So I believe that would be like UCM and Webex. Something like Avaya, I don't believe has device information. It's just extension based. And then there's a lot of other options within the directory, but what I really kind of want to go by is what are some of the standard fields that are like required standard fields are just name and extension. You need a name to a person, and you need an extension that's associated with it. If they have no extension, nothing's going to be reported on them. Nothing will come up because there's nothing to match them to the raw data that comes through. But some optional fields that you might want to include in the directory are going to be device information, Cisco login information, their auth codes if that is something you're supporting. You can also do fixed and one-time charges. That's also something that people typically not so much anymore, but there are still a lot of companies out there that do their fixed and one-time charges per their users on a monthly basis. And email can be utilized as well. Those are just some optional standard or optional like typical features that you can add into the directory. But the directory is rich with a lot of other available fields to include in your reporting. You can see some of those by going to personal attributes, and there's just other things that people have utilized to be able to match on to make reporting. And so a lot of these just may not mean anything to you. And honestly, a lot of them can be renamed and reutilized for your own purposes. So we do have some alternative like user-defined fields, DID, mobiles, but these all are option, like they're all customizable. They can be rechanged. So like mobile, not a lot of people use the mobile field anymore, and they've renamed it, and they will import a directory entries and give their individual people some fields that will allow them to report on the, like either put that in the report or also constrain on that field in the report to pull up these particular people that might match the field that you're trying to go for. So what I'm going to do here for a moment is go out, and this is definitely like admin level tasks to do this, but it's the configure directory feature. Allows you to say what you want to include in the directory. So if you actually didn't want the mobile field, the DID field, the user-defined field, you didn't want all of these extra fields to populate because they don't mean anything, turn them off. Or add them, and you'll see you can change the name of them. So it doesn't have to be mobile. It could be something else, you know. And I can't think of a good example right now of what you would use, but I've definitely come across weird scenarios where people are like, oh yeah, I have this thing that I need to attach to a person, and it'd be great to report on that. Well, yeah, let's add to your directory import. Let's add this custom field. Let's throw that information into it, and that will show up on the user. Okay. So that's configure directory. And that is kind of the user aspect of the directory. You can, create the entries with their extensions. And Larry, let me go one more thing. People can have multiple extensions. A lot of people do. They can also own a lot of different devices, depending on, they got Jabber, they got multiple desk phones. The only thing that you'll run into is that if you have people that have the same devices, our product doesn't know how to associate ownership if they are sharing a device. So we actually create entries called shared devices in the product, and that's what it would report to instead of the individual. So we've talked about, let me look at my notes real quick. We've talked about person, and we've talked about how to edit a person. You can create a person as well by pushing the plus symbol here. We'll talk about that in a minute. That's part of my discussion. We've talked about configuring the directory and how to add, or change out the fields. Let's see, where am I at? Got it. Where I'm at now is let's talk about expiration and moving people. Okay. Now I want to stress before I show this that to do this, the moving and expiration of people should only be done if you're doing a manual import, or sorry, a manual, like your manual process of maintaining this directory, which means you have people or yourself are coming into this directory and making changes to it through here. There's not an automated process to import your directory through other means. Because if you are, you want to let the automated process do its thing, and you would make the changes from the source that the directory import is pulling from. Okay, you don't want to fight with it at all. This is only if you don't have that feature and you want to maintain this directory manually. Now, if you have, like you see in this system, 25,000 people, maintaining a directory like that could be a job all on its own that would take up all of your time. So typically larger companies with larger directories are going to do it automated, but we'll get there in a minute. So let's talk about maintaining people. So let's say like Tim White, 3,500 in customer service department. Let's say you need him to go, he's moved to another department. Maybe he's gone to sales. Maybe he's gone somewhere else within the Midwest department with his extension, or maybe not with his extension. You select him, you'll see that it's highlighted. You'll select the move icon, which is a menu icon here at the top, and it's going to allow you to move that individual to another department. And you can just navigate down to where you want to go. So it would be ABC company, and then you'd want to find the Midwest, and then you'd select, say, the department you'd want to go to. And you'll see here that move call history to the new location is checkboxed, and that might be default. What that means is that all the calls of 3,500 of Tim in customer service will go with him to the new location, which means if you tried running a report on 3,500 in customer service after this move, you're not going to see those calls because you've told it to move that call history with it. But if you unselect it, you say, oh, I want to make this, and it is best to do this for the future. Doing it retroactive does not typically, you have to actually put in a support ticket to have the data recalced, because right now all the calls for Tim White are associated so far with this department. So honestly, I would do it either the moment of or in the future. So if you're like, I want to move this as of now, and then anything going forward, it will have. But basically, you select the effective date and time, and then you push move. Okay. And so what would happen then is Tim White's calls would stay for the time that he was in customer service. It would stay until you told it to move. And then as of the time and date that you told it to go to the new department, then all those any call that happened on 3,500 with Tim White will then populate in his new location. Okay. Now, if you do that, what you'll notice and what you'll see, I'm not going to do that here because I don't want to mess with this demo system. What you would see here is that it would actually show you an expire date. It would show you an expire date of the date and time that you told it to stop, like basically being in this department. So if it's in the future, it'll actually say expires on in the future date and time. Okay. Expires allows you to run reports on an individual historically. So Tim, you'd run a report for the past 6 months, and you're going to see all the calls that he was associated with in customer service. And then if you went to sales, you would see Tim's extension there without an expiration date, and you'd be able to report on the calls that he took since you moved him there. Okay. That being said, if you go to the X, or you can select him and push the X here, that allows you to delete a user. Now, if I select it, you're going to see here there's two options, deactivate and delete. Deactivating a person is typically preferred over deleting someone. So right now, if I deactivated Tim, let's say that Tim left the company, left the organization, deactivating him will leave his historical call records in the system, and you'd be able to report on Tim. But deactivating a person takes them away from their usage of licensing, but leaves their historical call records so that you can run reports on them. So it gives you the license back to apply an extension for maybe his replacement or for another person. Okay. It leaves the historical data. If you deleted this person, it does not remove the call record. You'd always, well, not always, as long as you're like you, I don't know, most of you have a year of retention for call records to be able to report on them. But if you delete the person, you can still report on that extension, but it would no longer be associated with Tim, and it would no longer be associated with customer service because you're removing the association to that person in place. So if I deleted the person, ran 3,500, I'd see all the calls, but it would just say unassigned for person and location. Okay. So I rarely, if ever, recommend deleting people. Unless maybe Tim has never worked, it got put in the directory, he was going to get hired, it was in the directory, we've had him in there for a month, things are complicated. Tim never actually got through wherever, and he never actually landed there. We have no call records for Tim. There's no reason to keep this in here because there's nothing associated with him. Deleting would work. That would make sense there. or he got put in there accidentally, he's not meant to be in customer service and never took calls, then we move him, delete him, and put him where he needs to be to have a clean directory. Okay. So that's how you would maintain a directory manually. It's really through either the adding a new user. So you go in here, you plug in the information, you plug in the data source of the phone number, the extension under what data or what phone system they're running under. You plug in the extension. You can line type is typically a station. Rarely I've seen anybody do anything else. And then if you want to plug in, and that's the only two requirements, is an extension and the person, the name and first name and last name. Device, Cisco, auth codes, any of that other information is just extra. It's not required. And then you save using this icon right here. That's how you add an individual. Deleting is the X or the X right here. Moving, you select the person and you move. Okay. That's all through maintaining the directory through a manual process, which means there's no automated system. Because if you are utilizing an automated import, you would fight with that import if you're making changes manually in the product. So if I made changes to Tammy, change their extension, change the location, change their name, whatnot, and the automatic import runs the next evening, it sees that there is incorrect information for Tammy, which it is maintaining, it will change it back to whatever it has for the import. So if you're doing a lot of work to clean this up and you have an automated process, you're going to be real mad the next day coming in, finding out that all of your work went back to what it was. So if that's the case, and you're doing an automatic import through whatever means, then you're going to want to really change the data from where it's pulling from, whether it's AD, whether it's UCM, whether it's just a file that you're feeding us. Any source of that would need to be updated for that process. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about directory import. Let's talk about how to automate this to make your life a whole lot easier. Okay. And what I'm actually going to bring to your attention is an article. And so the article I'm going to provide you is under our resource center under the knowledge base. Clicking on this will bring up our knowledge base. And you're going to get it under guides. And you're going to see supported directory import sources. Okay. Selecting this guide will bring you to kind of the main page of the supported, and then it'll branch off to the different how-tos to do a directory import. Okay, so it gives a little brief explanation of what a directory import is. So it's used to import information from a third-party source into our directory. Directory imports are useful for automatic directory management updates, and that's true. This is so that you don't have to be doing all of those manual changes. It's done automatically on a daily, nightly, you can even do it weekly or monthly. Whatever schedule you set up is how it'll import. Most people do daily, though. Now we have two categories here: recommended directory imports per the data source and supported. So while we may recommend a specific data source import, you might have other means to do it a different way. So this will just tell you can you do it? Sure. Do we recommend it? Maybe not. So like, for example, Microsoft Teams. Can you do, can you do an Entra ID? And that's typically the preferred one? Yes. But can you also do, no, that's not probably a good example. Oh, can you also do LDAP? Sure. It is a Y. Do we recommend it? No. Typically, the Entra ID is the best way to import for Microsoft Teams. But like I said, it's completely up to you. So this chart, these two charts will be helpful. You will, however, notice that there is the single dot next to yes, which is all next to this file import. And it can be used if recommended directory import sources are not maintained. And then you'll also see the triple dots, which actually, do I see any on the document? I might need to ask. Oh, I see. It's up here. triple or the double dots mean that you do need a Cloud Connect server, which would be something that we would help you configure on your end. It's just a server that runs a bit of our software, and what it does is it reaches out to, in this situation, UCM, the UCM system, grabs the end user table and like devices and stuff like that, grabs it, creates a flat file, and then sends it off to our environment. There's not like an API that will just grab it for us. Okay, so UCM, LDAP, and then just LDAP, those three do require Cloud Connect. Entra ID, Webex does not. Neither does file import, because you can dump that into our file, our SFTP folder. We can just do it that way, because most people are creating those files on their own in other means. Okay. Now, depending on what and or how you are doing your directory import might depend on where you're going to set it up at our system. Right now, there are two different ways to set up our directory imports. So for example, if you are doing a Webex directory import, that's all done in our new analytics engine, and there are steps to complete that import. And it all listed out here on what you need to do in order to start a directory import. These documents are very well done. But you'll notice if I go back and you want to set up a file import, you'll notice that this instructions will actually tell you to go to Classic, because Classic is the one that supports a directory import through a file. Okay, so each method has its own path to do so. Check these articles out. They are well done. They will tell you how to do it, which leads me to kind of like let me just recap on the supported directory imports. We support Azure ID, Entra ID. We support Webex Direct, UCM, LDAP, UCM with LDAP, and then just a plain flat file import are the preferred methods of directory import. Okay. Things to note when it comes to the directory import that I kind of thought about bringing up just as kind of a base information to directory imports. What if I already have a directory import is set up and I want to make a bunch of changes to the import? Will that affect my data? Possibly. You depend on it just depends on what you're changing in the import that could change the structure of your directory so dramatically that your report parameters may need to be updated. So if you make changes to directory, it doesn't retroactively change your reports. So if you change, make another hierarchy change, you add a whole new department change, whatever you're doing, the reports don't automatically update. You have to go into those reports and then make sure that the constraints and fields that you're utilizing match to what you've changed. Okay, so there can be aspects that you need to think about before you just make changes to an already configured directory import. Okay. Another question I kind of thought of was, what if my data from Active Directory or UCM or my, or wherever I'm getting the data is not so great? What if it's kind of messy and it's going to create a lot of junk? And you kind of know, like, is that a problem? And you kind of know the answer to this is that it's product in and product out. So what you feed us is what we're going to deliver. So cleaning up those sources before importing is always recommended. However, an unclean import can also help teams determine phone system cleanup projects of users and devices. I mean, I don't recommend you're importing into ISI as a great solution to that, but through the process of importing for people with directory imports, and then they're noticing that people and extensions are listed in many different places, have helped teams determine, oh, I need a clean house. Like this is not what I expected to see, and this makes a lot of sense. So it can also help you identify if you've got people and extensions and devices that are not where they meant to be. So keep that in mind. if I have no directory and I want to do it, can I do it myself? Absolutely. This guide right here will allow you to set up your directory import. It will affect your entire system, so anybody that logs in would see these changes. But if that's helpful to you, then by all means, go ahead and set up your directory import. You can and also you can set up the Cloud Connect. You can actually, there are instructions to set up Cloud Connect on your own. You don't even need us for that. But then the question comes in, if I'm doing it and I run into trouble, can I get help? Sir can. Reach out to support, and we can give you the support into figure out, maybe a step you missed, or maybe some configuration issues, or, guide you along into resolving it through support. Then the next question I thought of, can we also get support to guide us through it, like just from the start? We would probably provide you the documentation for you to do it on your own, but if you're really in need, reach out. We can see what we can do. Typically we do it during implementation, but any special project in the future, it would just be taken in consideration. So definitely reach out to support. We can see where we go with that. And then the last question I thought of, what if my Active Directory is messy? Will your team help me clean that up? No. Your data is something that you'll need to work on. And I've worked at many companies where Active Directory has been a fun little project to work on. And yes, it can be something that is difficult, but unfortunately, we don't have the means to help you update your AD or UCM. So yeah. That kind of concludes my demo, but I do want to say that I think in the future, after kind of putting this office hours together on the directory, as I think one of the office hours I'd like to do in the future is to actually do a directory import from scratch. So I would actually create a blank directory, show you a file import, show you maybe a Webex import, show you a UCM import, and we'll actually go from scratch to do so. And I think that will take, I will be in a separate session, as this would go on for another hour, so or another half an hour or whatever to do so. So I think I'll do that in another section. So that is something that I do plan on doing in the future. So I hope this helped you get a better understanding of directory, get a better understanding of how you have access, how to navigate it, what information can be added to it, how to automate or maintain the directory, and so forth. So I'm hoping that today's topic helped you see directory in a different light and why it's important, because we're pulling this data for your imports, or sorry, for your reporting. We're pulling this import for your dashboards. We're even using it for like alarms, for filters within call expiration and whatnot. Directory is kind of the lifeblood of your data. It does feed your ability, or give you the ability to select like an entire organization and get all the sub-departments and people that are associated with that. So it just makes things a lot easier, especially if it's clean and it's automated and it's updating daily. If you're getting reports on your departments that have a lot of turnover, it's nice to be able to see the changes every day. So, well, not that you should have a lot of turnover, but the changes of that turnover are easily reflected within the report.